Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Corgi Town USA. I'm Candy Kemp, owner of Corgi Town USA. In my lap is Chuckles, our spokescorg. We actually have a guest in studio today. Her name is Mindy. I will let her introduce herself and then we'll get to Cat. You know Cat.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kat, and fighting on the floor, which is why we opened the episode with "ow," is Digby and Mortimer.
Yeah. Digby the Doof
Digby the Doof,
and Mortimer
and
Barnabas.
somewhere around here is Little Booger and Hammer.
And Hammer. So we have the Corgi committee.
We do.
And we're going to talk about fostering today.
Yes.
And there are a lot of, I think, probably maybe miscommunicated or misunderstood things about fostering. And so we wanted to kind of bring somebody on who does fosters. And Kat says, "Oh, wonderful. I have a really good friend that has fostered many pets. And we can bring her on the show and ask her." So we're glad to have an in-person guest. So she too can get corgi fur in her eyeball and in her nose and in her mouth as we're talking. And she'll actually understand because she's living it here in the studio with us. Mindy, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us about you. Tell us about your background, how you got started fostering.
Well, hello, Corgi Town. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So my name is Mindy. I have recently started fostering for a wonderful organization called Follow Your Heart Animal Rescue.
Oh.
I started fostering in 2020 during the lockdown. As we all know, we were a little bored and slightly crazy. And so I decided, let's add to the crazy and have a random dog come to my house.
Yeah.
So I started fostering, got placed with a poodle, which has later been nicknamed the Grumpy Poodle.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes, that is my first foster and also foster fail. And you'll probably hear a lot of fosters in the rescue community talk about foster fails. That's where you get a foster, you fall in love with it, and you don't let it go home. You adopt it yourself.
So you kept the grouch.
I did. I kept the Grumpy Poodle.
Oh, fun. Well, poodles don't shed, though.
They do not.
That's kind of cool.
She doesn't shed, but I do get dogs that do shed. I get dogs with behavioral issues. I get dogs that are antisocial and never know what you're going to get. That's the joy and some of the uncertainty of being a foster.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, let's talk about, we were talking about kind of things that are maybe misunderstood about fostering, and I'm sure our whole audience knows, but like adopting is one thing. You can go to the pound, you can go to a shelter, you can adopt a dog. You can adopt a dog through a rescue organization. We love our rescues. But fostering is a little different because Digby and Mortimer are like making sweet, harmonious, weird corgi gremlin noises. It's a little distracting in the studio. But fostering is where you do take on an animal not with the intention to keep them.
Right. It's as Mindy alluded to, it is a grab bag.
I've only fostered, I think, 2 dogs. All the others have been rescues. Other than
I am up to 20 now.
Holy Toledo!
Yes. Wow.
Well,
this is just in 2 years. I have fostered 20 animals.
That's crazy. I mean, good crazy. Thank you for that work. Yeah, but I mean, that's crazy is not the word. That's astounding. Astounding. That's astounding.
Is a good
Thank
word.
you.
Yes, it's astounding.
Well, I feel like some people find that impressive that I will just let this random dog in my home, but that is part of being a foster. And one of the biggest misunderstood of being a foster is the expectation like, oh, I can't do it. I don't have the house. I don't have the training. I'm not a dog trainer. Well, fostering's not about dog training. It's just about providing a safe place for the dog to land and to learn how to be a dog. That's how I call it. So I bring these dogs in that possibly have been mistreated or under-socialized. And the main goal is to get them healthy. So a lot of times they're sick, malnourished, and once you give them good food and you give them love, then you can start to work on some of the other issues that are harder, maybe behavioral that come out, or basic training, like potty training. And I feel that a lot of the community would foster more if they knew that you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a dog trainer. You just need to be a decent human being.
Be open and care.
Yes.
Open and caring. and be willing to spend time with an animal that may not be the perfect pet on day one. You just have to have a little patience.
Well, few pets are the perfect pet on day one. To be fair, I
This is
mean,
true.
your rescues and your breeder purchase. I mean, you have to teach them how to be part of the family, right?
It
Yes.
is. And one of the things we like to tell our families, adoptive families, as well as a reminder to us fosters as well, is it generally takes 3 days for a foster to decompress.
Mhm.
They're coming from a totally different environment.
Yeah.
They're scared. So you got to give them 3 days just to chill.
Yeah.
Don't take them out and meet your entire family. For those of you who are wondering, the Grumpy Poodle, her name is Sushi.
Yes.
And
She's
first of all,
adorable.
the name is unique as she is, because she is adorable. And I got her as a foster. She was very sick. She
Oh.
arrived to me. She was really, really sick. And she was originally rescued from Mexico with our sister organization across the border. And so she came up, and poor girl was just sick. So she was expected to be with me for at least 3 weeks, just until we could get the antibiotics and get her feeling better. And her and I were just best buds. And all my friends told me, "That's your dog." I'm like, "No, not my dog. She's just my foster."
You're like, I'm setting up boundaries.
Yes.
Yes, I'm not going to adopt every dog. It's my first dog. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks go by, and now it's 2 months that I've had this beautiful animal.
So she's a new adoption.
Well, I adopted her in 2020,
Okay.
but I had her for 2 months by that
Oh,
point.
okay.
to get her healthy.
We're going back in time.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. I'm
Do we do
on
the
board
sound
now.
effects? Back in time.
Yeah.
So in the 2020, I had her for 2 months, and then I decided, like, okay, she's ready. Doctors said that she was healthy, that yes, she could be adopted out. And I met the adoptive family. She went home with them. I went out to my car and bawled for like a good hour, just bawling, like ugly tears. Like, it was not pretty. Bawling to say goodbye to this dog. And was like, okay, I did it. It's part of being a foster. You got to say goodbye. And the next day I get a call from the rescue asking me, "Was Sushi sick?" "No." "What's wrong? What's wrong?" They're like, "No, just a little worried. She might have some stress. She's having some diarrhea." I'm like, "She's not sick." They're
Yeah.
like, "Okay." Few hours go by. And mind you, this is only like day one. Few hours go by. "Are you sure she wasn't sick?"
No.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I'm like, okay, just keep me informed.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's day 2. And we're still thinking ahead of the 3-3-3 rule. I mean, obviously she's got to have an adjustment period.
Right.
Well, day 2, I get another call. "Sushi's not doing too well. Are you sure?" I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
"Yeah, I'm positive.
Poor
She was
Sushi.
fine." They're like, "Well, we're going to ask the adopter to bring her into the hospital, have the vet check her out, make sure
Of course.
nothing's wrong." And I'm freaking out because I'm like, "Tell me, make sure you let me know what's going on." And a couple hours later, they call me again and they say, "Well, the doctor says nothing's wrong with her, but we've encouraged the adopter just to go ahead and bring her back. And would you be interested in fostering her?" And I dropped everything. I just told my work. I just said, "I gotta go." And I drove as fast as I could to the rescue, run in, and I'm like, "Where is she? Where is she?" Like crazy dog mom that I didn't know I was capable of being.
You bonded and you didn't even know it.
I didn't know it. So I run in, I ask where she is. They're like, "Oh, well, she's in the back." And without asking permission, which I would say, ask permission to go in the back unless you're the crazy dog mom. And I just ran in the back. So I ran in the back and they show me where she's at. And she's huddled in the back of the cage.
Oh.
She's not even looking. She's not even moving. And I reached my hands in because I called her name and she didn't respond. And I reached my hands in, and just as I got to her, it's like she just woke up And she leaped into my arms and like yipped and kissed me and
Aw.
just squirmy butt and just so excited. And both of us were loud. Like a couple people in the exam rooms came out to figure out like
You were squeezed.
Oh, there was so much squeeze. It was like a fangirl moment. And the owner of the rescue, who had shown me in the back, looked at me and said, "That is not the same dog that came in here this morning."
She had separation anxiety from you.
Yes.
She
Is that what the
had
diarrhea
decided-
was?
Yep.
Yeah.
She had decided that I was her family.
Mm.
I just needed the wake-up call to realize that it didn't matter that I didn't have the white picket fence yard and the perfect family life, or what I imagined the perfect family life was. So she decided that just me and her were the perfect family.
Aw. That's so
So-
sweet.
So now, Mindy, we are personal friends.
Yes, we are.
And I go over your house often, probably not often enough. And you don't have 22 dogs there. You said you've fostered 22 dogs in the last 2 years.
Where do they go?
Yeah, I mean, the first one you couldn't give up. How do you go about now? The dog comes in and they stay with you for a while. What happens next?
So one of the hardest things about fostering is the art of letting go,
Yeah.
saying goodbye. So I look at every dog that comes to me as, this is my dog, and I'm going to treat them like my dog, and I'm going to love them like my dog. But eventually, they're going to go somewhere else. And
So is it like a mental boundary?
it is a mental
Okay.
boundary. So I treat them and love them as if they were my own, but I know they're not my dog. And what I find is, if I were to take every dog and adopt every dog, obviously I'd end up with 20 dogs, and my neighbors would probably not be okay with that.
No,
But
neither would your friends.
for each dog that I give away and it goes to a wonderful, loving home, that opens up my home and my heart for another dog that needs help and needs rescuing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to adopt every dog, there would be no room in my home for the next dog that needs help. And there have been some amazing cases of dogs that I've rescued that probably wouldn't have been adoptable if they hadn't been in a foster situation.
Okay.
I have had dogs that needed a little more time and a little more one-on-one time.
Let's talk about that. So, because of our friends in rescue, we know a lot about, part of the problem is that they're like one dog homes. Like they're extremely reactive to other dogs.
Yes.
And most people who rescue and foster dogs have multiple dogs. So when we talk to our friends in rescue, they talk about how that's part of making them hard to place. And typically, I hate to use broad generalizations, but what we're finding out about, responsible breeding versus backyard breeding versus, we always encourage rescue. We're very pro rescue here. But if you're going to purchase from a reputable breeder, a responsible breeder, because most of those dogs don't wind up in shelters and
No,
rescue.
they don't.
And so I say that to say, usually when they wind up in a rescue or foster, that you're going to have some separation anxiety because they didn't anticipate being away from the family that they'd come to know and love, and very often behavioral problems.
Yes.
So
do get
please tell us, how you manage that. Like,
So what I find first and foremost is having a little
Just-
patience.
eat your microphone.
Little equipment adjustment.
Patience goes a long way. I also happen to not be very concerned about my carpet, which I think is pretty good. And having a sense of humor. Yes, there's going to be accidents. Yes, there's going to be moments where a dog may have eaten part of my wall. I'm aware of all these things. And
I'm just not attached to my wall. It's
No.
not serious.
no, it's all right. We're not in a relationship.
Yeah.
And so I have had dogs where they have been very under socialized.
Mhm.
And I just had a dog that was rescued from county that could have easily been on the E list
Oh no.
because
Aggressive.
no, just
No.
antisocial, wouldn't come out, just scared of the world, scared of everything.
Okay.
Yes.
So he was placed with me and pretty much hid in the bathroom the first 3 days. Didn't
Aw.
move, do anything. And slowly just sitting next to him, just talking to him, and allowing on his time the ability to slowly pet him. And went from being able to pet him to then he would come out of the bathroom to come eat. And then from there, slowly getting him to where I could put a leash on him and just let him run through the house with the leash dragging behind him. And then from there, I was able to get him outside.
It's a process.
And
Hmm.
getting him outside and getting him on a leash and exploring the world outside, like that clicked something in his brain. Because all of a sudden, the world became magical. I just needed to get him past that first fear and get him to trust at least one human.
Yeah.
All he needed was to trust one human.
Yeah.
And then from there, he met a friend of mine. He met my neighbors. And each positive interaction, he came further and further out of his, shell, as I would call it.
You taught him that the world's not all this giant scary place.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
with
That's fulfilling, right?
It is amazing.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things to do is have before and after pictures and before and after videos. And his was probably one of the most dramatic and rewarding.
He was.
And
You met him?
I met him, little Eddie.
So, as we're talking about, have some patience and a really good carpet enzyme cleaner. Those are your advice. What would you say to someone who comes to you and says, I want to get started fostering? I would think most of the time, and we have an episode coming up with someone who worked in animal welfare and kind of tells us about how people get started with their
Yes.
why.
Yeah.
And how often how the why and what you actually apply to the job end up being kind of two different things and things you wouldn't think about. You don't know till you've lived it. Perspective is everything.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about if someone comes to you and says, I really like dogs. I like to, or I like pets. I love pets. I love animals. So I want to help. So I'd really like to begin fostering. I mean, what would you, other than the patience, have plenty of patience and some carpet enzyme cleaner. What would you say to that person if they got how to get started and what advice would you get them?
so first off, I would say thank you for fostering. There's a huge need for fostering right now. And then I would ask them, well, what are you looking for? And then I would suggest a research. Look at different rescues that align with what you're looking for. So there's amazing organizations like Corgi Town that work directly and speak about corgis. So if you had that interest, I would say look out to either a corgi rescue, or if you are interested in small breeds, there are specific rescues that do small breeds. And let's say you love the bully breed. We definitely need lots of fosters for bully breeds. And for that, just reach out to your local rescue of what you're interested in and what you're capable of. So speaking for myself, I live in less than 1,000 square feet. So I personally am not comfortable bringing in a bully breed just because I know that's my limitation and I'd want them to have more room.
They don't like this being confined and they need room to kind of.
That's my experience.
Yeah.
Not everyone, though. I mean, I don't want to speak in generalization,
Sure.
but just with what.
It's good to know the breed's kind of proclivities, though, if you're going to
Yes.
go breed specific.
So my choice to get started was I wanted small dogs because I knew that that's what I could handle. And so I contacted my local rescue, and they have been amazing to work with. And I've even been able to not on purpose, but get known as the fluffy white dog foster.
Oh,
Because the last 10,
Every one of them.
the last 10 fosters have all been white dogs.
that's kind of fun.
And so I would say for people looking into foster, also see what your foster rescue is going to provide for you. Some foster rescues will provide you with everything you need. They'll provide you with the puppy pads, the food, the medical care.
I didn't know that was a thing, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes. And my rescue does that.
Awesome.
So even the random occasion I've asked for, hey, do you think I could get a dog bed? That was not an unreasonable ask. They said, sure.
Sure.
What size? What color? What texture? And then I had a whole selection to choose from.
Does your dog like purple?
Because thankfully, some of the donations have been very generous. And so I had my choice of different dog beds. But going back to the original statement, is not every rescue is as fortunate as mine.
Mhm.
And some of them would ask you to supply your own food or toys,
Mhm.
which is not an unreasonable ask, but some people may not be in that position. But those people, just because you're not in the financial position to actually pay for dog food, you can still do something. You can volunteer your time. You can go walk dogs at either a shelter or rescue and just volunteer your time, or do a collection at your work and collect puppy pads or old towels, old blankets, laundry detergent.
Do a drive.
Do a drive.
Yeah, that's
So
good advice.
Even if you're not up to the actual day-to-day fostering and light training that you'd be expected to do, you still can do something.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so for anyone interested in fostering, I would definitely say, yes, become a foster and just look at different resources that are available in your area, or get into it in other ways by volunteering or donating your time or funds.
And be prepared for accidents like foster fails.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. You would, to your point, prepare yourself with the mental, that these are
get attached.
Yeah. Tell yourself that these aren't my dogs. I'm going to love them like my dogs, but just know that one might end up gluing its heart to yours.
And on the flip side, don't think that every dog is going to be your dog.
You think some won't like you?
No.
Is that what you mean?
Oh, not that some won't like you. There are people who think that if you go into foster, they being the foster place expects you to adopt them. They don't.
No.
People go into, not unlike dating, people go into a foster situation going, this is going to be the one. It's probably not.
Oh.
You
got to be open.
You've got to be open.
It's like the patience you talked about. Have patience, but you need to be open to the possibilities of you might be here for the 2.5 months, or
and
you might be here for ever.
That is a valid point. Because my first dog that became a foster fail, the expectation or idea that I was given in the beginning is she would be with me for 3 weeks.
Yes.
And then I ended up having her for more like 8 weeks. And that happens frequently. So it goes into line of, yes, have an expectation. I wouldn't want you to sign up to be a foster when you have a wedding or cruise coming up and you only have 3 weeks, because you don't want the dog getting used to you, your routine, and then being moved. So that would be the only thing I would worry about is just the commitment. Sometimes the commitment isn't always exactly perfect. So if they tell you 3 weeks, it might be 4, it might be 5.
Yeah.
And then you always have the choice of bringing them home and becoming part of your permanent family.
Right. So you mentioned earlier, Mindy, that you live in a place that's less than 1,000 square feet, but you do have that giant backyard, right? That whole fenced in backyard and all that fun stuff that we think dogs require.
So that is an idea that I projected myself when I was first looking into having a dog. Is I thought, well, I don't have the perfect house. Well, there is no perfect house. So what I do is I take my dogs on walks, and that's how I potty train them. I put on a leash, we go on a walk, they potty outside. They're always under my control with the leash. And as a side effect of that, of just simply not having my own personal enclosed yard, my dogs actually get excellent socialization, and they get to be walked, and they get to pee and
help them to be less reactive. I'm
They-
sure
they are.
desensitized.
And I take them, and I typically take them in the morning or late evening, so it doesn't hurt their paws. but do take them to a park where there's a nice green space. And also, safety tip, most of my fosters are vaccinated.
Mhm.
They're not usually for common dog diseases like parvo and distemper.
Mhm.
So I would never risk any of my animals,
Mhm.
either mine or borrowed by foster, to exposing them.
Always check with the vet, of course. They
Yes,
need to have all their boosters.
So I usually get dogs that are vaccinated, or if they're not vaccinated, then they get to hang out in my house and wait until their immune system catches up,
Mhm.
or they're able to get their booster shot, and then they can go outside
Before they're exposed
Yes.
to anything. Yeah.
So the puppies I have right now are not fully vaccinated, but they're vaccinated enough that they can go on adventures.
Yay.
But
The
they're not-
puppy stages.
But they're not here today, so I apologize. I don't have puppies to show you.
We didn't want to overwhelm them with all of our corgis.
Yes.
There are 5 corgis in the house today. So and 2 of them are super surly. Those
Yeah.
Chuckles and
Always.
Mortimer.
Always.
So, well, thank you for sharing with us. I think that we've all learned a little bit about, what fostering really means and what it is to do it, and hear it from somebody who's been doing it for a long time. And we thank you taking time to come out here today and tell us about it.
And for doing all the fostering and,
Yeah.
and getting those dogs ready for their permanent forever homes.
Yeah, working with them. I mean, there's always that. And again, when we talk to our friends of rescue, there's always that transitory period, right? Which is oh so important. Just as the homes need to be carefully chosen for the pets, so do the fosters.
And that's true. I would say, fostering, just go with the mindset that you need to carve out a little bit of time to be with this animal. You don't want to just stick it in the crate.
It's not an afterthought. It's something you have to put some dedication and some commitment into. Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 100. Well, and we always tell people, I mean, with all dogs, but with corgis, they're not a background dog.
No.
They become a toddler essentially. They're going to be a very large part of your life. If you want just a pet that can like hang out, get a nice kitty cat maybe, but not a corgi. So
or an older dog that you rescued.
Yeah. Ones that like to be left alone in the quiet. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming in today and joining us in the studio and getting slobbered on and shedded on by corgis.
I love it.
Well, we hope that you enjoyed this episode and that you learned a little bit about fostering dogs from someone who does it.
And maybe you'll actually consider going out and
Maybe.
fostering dogs.
Yeah, maybe. Depends.
And you can do it if you have a dog. Some people that's, no, I can't do it. I have a dog. You can do it.
They just have to be placed correctly. And I'm sure like the rescue will help you do
Yes.
that if you work through one
Absolutely.
of them. Well, we hope that you enjoyed this episode. We're here for you every week. All things corgi and dog lifestyle. I'm Candy. Chuckles in my lap. I am not Chuckles. I am Chuckles' mommy. He is our spokescorg. The whole corgi committee here: a Digby, Booger, Hammer, Mortimer, and then we have Cat.
I'm Cat.
And Mindy has joined us today. Thank you so much. We hope you have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Bye.